Good morning. This is Julie with Book of Hours, and this is the view of my kitchen, or out of my kitchen window. And it's about 9:15 in the morning on Sunday, September 3rd, 2017, in San Francisco, California. So it's a little bit early, but we want to get a start on our day because the heat has finally broken and we are no longer dealing with 100, 106, 102 degree weather. So we're really happy about that. It's still warm, but it's not oppressive and stifling and debilitating like it was before. So we will try to go outside and enjoy it. I didn't name this podcast yet. I'll go back and figure out what I want to call it. But this is the continuation of the discovery of the pathology in the family of origin. And this is just a general, excuse me while I make noise, I'm cleaning the kitchen. So this is just general information about what I've come to discover, and sort of to give those who are in the group that I belong to, who are also in their own phase of discovery about their family of origin and their role as either scapegoat or an ableist or golden child. Most of the people that are in my group are scapegoats like me. So people have reached out to me and have asked me various questions. I'm an administrator for the group, so I'm waiting for, there are a few people that want to join the group and join in on the discussion. But because it's a group to help heal the damaged and help heal those that have been abused, the criteria for joining the group is pretty strict. We have to make sure that you're not a troll. We have to make sure that that you are not going to exploit other people's pain, and that you're not going to bring a level of dysfunction to a group, to a space, and to a place where people are trying to heal. So as the administrator, as one of the administrators of the group, I take that responsibility very seriously because I myself am still in a very vulnerable phase. So, some of the questions that have been asked to me are, how long have you been experiencing this? What brought it about? How did you know? Well, it's something that when you grow up as a scapegoat and you always feel like you're being blamed for something, and how you feel about your position in the family of origin is always criticized, like your entire life, and everything that you feel about any particular situation, or even if it's just something nebulous that you can't really put your finger on, it's just a behavior that is adopted around you. I would say that for me personally, it's something I've always known. I've always been aware of my position as the scapegoat. I just did not understand it. I did not have the terminology and the knowledge about pathology of the family, because I never understood it. I was always just told, that because I was born with an illness which is similar to rheumatoid arthritis, that because of that, it affected my emotions, and that I should be, it should be understood and I should be pitied because, if I'm angry or frustrated with the way the family dynamic is working, then they can scapegoat that anger and frustration into my illness that I was born with. So it's a very sadistic and very cunning and very malicious way of not having to ever take accountability for placing one person in the family dynamic as the scapegoat. So in answer to the question, how did you come to discover this, and how did you come upon these groups and things like that, well, it's something I've always known, but I never sought help. I never sought any kind of, meaning behind it. It was something, I always knew that it wasn't right. I always knew it, but I did not know how to articulate it. And I certainly didn't know how to handle it. And so, as a result, like I mentioned the other day on Friday in my longer podcast called Stigma, as a result of being the family scapegoat, many patterns in my life repeated themselves, and it became the stigma, and it became the reality. Abusive relationships, narcissistic boyfriends or friends, pathology, constant pathology, and constant psychosis in every single situation that I was in, whether it was a work situation or a friendship situation or a relationship. These patterns continue to manifest themselves. Of course, me being who I am, because I'm a scapegoat, and scapegoats are very hard on themselves, sort of like pathologically, or maybe that's not the right word, psychologically, we're very hard on ourselves. We will always look within and say, I'm the common denominator in all of these problems. I must be doing something wrong to draw this problem to me. Well, the reality of it is that drama, that, anxiety that's perpetuating the problems, that has actually been placed in me in the family dynamic. So, one of the things that the family dynamic will do is they will say things like, oh, well, you can't choose your family. Your family, is always going to be there for you. Your family is always, is the tried and true, the staple of your life. They will always be there for you. Friends, on the other hand, well, friends are just outside people, and they can't really understand you the way we can. So what that is a manipulation tactic, and it keeps you in the cycle of abuse, because the last thing in the world that the family dynamic wants is for you to get out of that role of scapegoat. So they have to keep you in with, fake overtures, and also empty promises, sort of guiding you along, stringing you along. Oh, we'll hang out. Oh, I love you. Oh, yeah, But what it is they've got to just keep stringing you along so that you maintain that role of scapegoat, so that they don't ever have to look at their own pathology. They can just dump it all on you. So when your family, who you feel is not being so great to you, and you're just like, what is it? I can't, maybe even if you don't have a specific example, I actually do have specific examples, but if you don't, and it's much more nuanced than that, and yet it's just something that you feel that your opinions about things are disrespected. When you say, look, I'm feeling like I'm being left out, I don't understand why the family treats me this way, and then they turn it around on you and make you the bad guy and make it sort of like you have all the problems and you're the one at fault. That is a way to keep you in that position when they say things like, well, you know how it is family, and you can't get away from family. But friends, you only put your best foot forward, so your friends only see the best part of you. So of course your friends are better than your you feel that your friends might be better than your family, but your family loves you with all of your thorns and all of your faults and all of your scars and all of your problems. No. Right then and there, stop the conversation and say, and stand up for yourself and say, actually, my friends who I've had for decades know they have seen the very worst sides of me, and they still treat me with more respect than you do. So that is a dialogue that is, it's a manipulation tactic, and it's meant to keep you in the role of scapegoat. Sadly, in my situation, I have a family of origin that does not believe in psychology. They don't believe in mental health. They either think that everything is a choice and that people decide to, you know, be in pain or whatever. They choose to be in pain. Or they think that, you know, just a quick prayer will fix everything. So, you know, they are not even recognizing of their own pathology. But I will give you, I will illustrate to you an example of how I was able to sort of out them unknowingly, unwittingly. I outed them, and so when I'm asked the question, what set you on the path, what helped you discover, this is the only way that I can really articulate that answer. So, when I was talking to a friend of mine at a party 1 week ago, I was saying to her, I'm not feeling like I'm really getting respected from my family of origin regarding my wedding, which is coming up in 2 months. And my friend said to me, have you ever heard of the drama triangle? It sounds like your family wants to fit you into a role. And the idea that you would be, the idea that you would actually be breaking out of that role by marrying someone who's of quality and who's also like incredibly nice and personable and has all of these, you know, very, very good qualities in a human being. The idea that you would be marrying someone like that is really disrupting their worldview of you and the balance in the family dynamic. So if there was a specific instance that set me on this path of discovery and helped me, source all of the material that I've been sourcing over the last week, I would say that it was that conversation. But even before that, you know, when I would complain to the family about, you know, before I even understood about flying monkeys and narcissistic parents and golden child and scapegoat child and ableist and, you know, the psychopathy behind all of it and the pathology that gets carried through genetically, before I even understood all of that, and I had no clue what it was about, I was actually sort of outing them without even knowing it. So for instance, I would say, you know, no one's really responding to my question about why you guys aren't participating in my wedding. Like, and I'm really confused by this, you know. So some narcissistic parents use, like, they blow up their child's phone or they harass them incessantly. What my narcissist in my life does is she will, and this is what everybody in my family does, in my family of origin does. This is part of the pathology. This is what they do. They give the silent treatment, knowing that silence is a very hostile form of communication. And so what I was doing is I was calling them out on that. And I was saying, you know, this feels like sabotage. You're trying to sabotage my wedding. You're giving me the silent treatment. And instead of actually addressing why it is that you're doing this, which would then expose them as wanting me, as wanting to place me in that position of scapegoat, I was getting lots of deflection, lots of accusations, and lots of, you know, hysteria instead of actual, like, responsive answers that I could, that you know, were just based in truth, you know. So without even realizing it, I was exposing the pathology for what it was, without even knowing that I was a scapegoat. So in answer to your question, to one person who questioned me on one of the groups, it was like, how did you know when this was all happening? Like, did a doctor diagnose it? That kind of thing. Not really. And it's something that no one will ever diagnose, in my opinion. I think that it's something that you have to that you have already known about your position and about your situation to begin with, and that you just have to trust your own instincts. And that's, you know, a lot of the last year and a half of my life, especially here at Book of Hours, was the discovery of the pathology and the duplicity of politics. And that comes from somewhere, doesn't it? I mean, the duplicity and you know, untrusting nature of our political system, you know, and the fact that we're actually run by corporations and not by people who have, you know, social ideology behind the laws that they pass. It's more about, you know, capitalism and making sure corporations are safe, but not the people who work for the corporations. So we all know this. Like, every single person, it doesn't matter what political background you come from. Every single person knows this, and we are all unified and getting on board with this knowledge. So if we know this about the people that are running our country and pulling the strings of our politicians, then why can't we look within at our own family dynamic and our own family of origin and see also that there is, you know, a lot of game playing going on, a lot of pitting people against each other, a lot of hysteria, a lot of distractions, a lot of lies that are told. You know, if we know these things politically, then where's the disconnect with the family? So that's something else that I've learned to discover, is that as Americans, we are very, you know, much into, like, making sure that we feel good all the time and that we never complain about anyone, especially the family of origin. And that is to keep the dialogue going. And it's just in the same way that, you know, our politicians want to keep us divided and keep a certain dialogue going, to distract us from the fact that, you know, there's this you know, continued erosion of our democracy. So, you know, that's, if we can apply, you know, that sort of larger scoped ideology to politics, why can't we look at our own family of origin under a microscope and apply the same cynicism and the same critique of the family of origin? So so again, you know, people asked me, how did you find out? Again, you know, it's something I've always known. It's not something that I found out. And, you know, luckily I had, you know, two friends come forward and say, you know, this sounds a little bit like this. And this is not me gossiping. This is me telling people how I feel. There's a big difference. I feel like I've been pushed aside by my family of origin. And her response to that was, check out something called DDT, or the drama triangle. So I checked that out, which then led me on into this other, you know, network of information regarding being the scapegoated child and how I fit every possible, like, criteria. If you opened up, you know, a Psychology 101 textbook, I mean, this is textbook. Everything about the way the family of origin and how they've set me up as the scapegoat and all the different pathology and all of the different game playing and shit that goes on when you're the scapegoat, it's literally in a textbook. It's like they haven't even deviated one little bit. So it seems pretty cut and dry to me. Another person said, I'm considering, you know, doing low contact with one of the flying monkeys in their life. And I would really caution against going contact with any flying monkeys. You know, I have one flying monkey who was actually, you know, really great. He wrote a letter on my behalf, and it was really great. He, you know, and he sort of stepped it up, and he's like, look, this is what's happening to, you know, to the scapegoat in my life is bullshit. And so he wrote a letter on my behalf in sort of a legal setting, whatever, not to the narcissist in our lives or anything like that. It was an outside person that was trying to hurt me. Despite the fact that he wrote this nice letter and he did the right thing, despite that he still is a mouthpiece for the narcissist. He still did take on the role of the flying monkey. And if you start, you know, if you start lowering your standards a little bit, and you're like, well, maybe I can go low contact with the flying monkey because he did this really great thing, or she did this really great thing, and they seem to have an understanding of the narcissism that has perpetuated in the the family of origin. I don't know, unless they full on come out and say, I've got no contact with the narcissist, or I've got no contact with the other flying monkey, and I'm with you. Like, I'm with you. Unless they come out and actually say that, then they're not, they're not to be trusted. Again, it goes back into that whole, that whole manipulation and authoritarian rule, which is that, family sticks together. And the reality of it is that it's not that family sticks together. It's that the family needs that scapegoat in their life in order to continue the pathology and set you up as the emotional dumping ground, and blame everything on you and bring up any possible innocuous little infraction that you may have ever allegedly said or done or not done. They're going to bring it up because they're cataloging and building a case against you. That's what they're doing. That they are not nurturing you, they are not helping you, they are not there for you, they don't care about your successes, just like they don't care about the fact that I'm getting married to, a person of quality. They're cataloging and critiquing every little move that I make. In fact, if they have access to this, they're probably going to critique that as well, because that is what a narcissist and her flying monkeys or his flying monkeys do. That's what they do. So to try to as a scapegoat, you're very empathic and you're very forgiving and you're very vulnerable to other people's feelings, and you have legitimate concern and legitimate care for these people in your life. That's not to discount that, but you have to go no contact. You have to shut down those windows of opportunity for the flying monkeys to fly in and start their attacks against you again and build a case against you. I'm at such a PTSD moment in my life right now that I don't trust any of them. I don't trust that they will not use hysteria and lies to try to set me up. And so that's why I shut down my Facebook account, I blocked all phone numbers, and I went public with how I feel to protect myself. So this is a very serious, very, time in my life, and I don't trust them. I trust them as far as I can throw them, and I can't. I just, to allow them to have an opportunity to pull you back in and build more a case against you, because that's what it is folly. It's complete folly, and you can't do it. And so this experience has been enlightening. It's been very freeing. I feel definitely more free, but at the same time it's been very difficult. Some nights I sleep really well, some nights I don't sleep at all. I think the 106-degree temperatures in San Francisco and the low air quality has something to do with the not being able to sleep, but I also think it has to do with the discovery that there are people that I'm related to that are out to hurt me, and that they are out to damage me, and that they are out to really pull me back into their cycle of dysfunction and cycle of pathos and cycle of nastiness, just horribleness, and without ever looking within. So when you ask me, when the group asks me, can't I at least have, some low contact with a sort of a half flying monkey? I mean, she or he was there for me a couple of different times in my life, and they seem to understand the level of narcissism that comes, and psychosis and psychopathy that comes from the family of origin, and so they seem to be on my side. No, it's too, you have to think of them as spies, you have to think of them as traitors, and that they're trying to pull you in, and they're double agents, you have to think of them that way. I know it sounds really paranoid and it sounds really awful, but really what it is just complete and total self-preservation and building a wall around you to keep them from hurting you. Because there is no doubt, that they have a goal in mind, and that goal is to hurt you. And for me, it was to try to destroy my relationship, which would then make it so that I wouldn't get married, which means that my whole life would fall apart, and because there's so much that I count on in this relationship, everything. And I just, and their goal was to get that to fall apart. And before I even knew that I was a scapegoat, before I even knew what all this pathology really was about, before I even knew that they had designated me in this role and tried to entrap me in this role by saying the authoritarian, rule of the family is the dynamic, and that is the one solid thing in your life, and you may not like the family, but they are all you got. Well, if it's all about abuse and blame and deflection and never looking within and enabling other people to hurt me, then that's not a family. That's not a family. That's a group of people that are basically using you as an attack point, to make themselves feel better. So I figured all of this out in a very nuanced way, where I was like saying to them, why are you trying to sabotage me? I was actually using the actual words that you would find in a psychology textbook, without even realizing the psychology behind it. So, on some level, you really, really, truly know what that role is that they've placed you in. And now you know that you need to get the hell out of it. So, I hope that answers some of the questions that people have had in the group that I belong to. And again, if you are wanting to be in a group that is to help a person through their psychological and emotional abuse that they've experienced, and you're not wanting to answer the questions that we laid out for you, then you're not going to be in the group. We need to see that you're coming from a place of sincerity to come into this group. The people that are in this group have already been abused enough. And we don't want to open up any opportunity for more abuse. So, thank you for tuning in. This is Julie with Book of Hours.